Hello, this is an internal video for GLab's project, and this is going to be part 1 out of part 3 or 4, depends on how inclined I will be explaining stuff related to the project. Okay, so this part is going to be about making a fork. Okay, so once you go to github.com in your browser of choice, you will see something like that. So the thing you would want to do is to go to the right upper corner, choose your profile. Now, I know that some of you may already have created a fork. I would ask you to delete it. So go to your fork. So really quickly, the reason why I would want you to delete a fork that you already made is because if you go to commits, you can see that we only have 7 commits. So how the hell do we only have 7 commits? Well, because the first commit is compressed commit, and if you would press on the 3 bottoms, you see under 100 commits that we have made so far to this project. So to make the management a bit easier and simpler, and to make commits a bit more readable, I compress them. Now, if you have an old version of, if you have an old fork of the project, you're not going to have your commits compressed. So every time you're going to make a pull request to the main project, it is going to break this compression of commits, and then I'm going to need to make it again and again, and it's a headache. So instead of this, let's just make a new fork. Okay, so open your fork, go to your settings, scroll down a bit. So the very last option is going to be delete this repository. Click on it. I want to delete this repository. I have read. Now make sure here is your username and not my username. Because you don't want to delete the project, you want to delete the fork. Now, and you have to understand that right now, the only people that are supposed to follow me are the ones that already have a fork, which are 2 people. Okay, so now they want us to type out the name of the project, but I would just use F12 and copy the text that represents the name of the project and paste it here, because I don't want to spend time typing it out. Okay. Now we deleted our fork. Excellent. So where do we find our main repository? Well, if you go to the GLab's Discord server, where we have our GitHub repo chat under the GitHub related, it may be closed for you, so you may press on this stuff and you will see the channel. And here is a link to the main repository, the first one. If you click on it, you will see the main repository. I would recommend you to start this project, so that in the future you could just go to your profile, go to the stars, and see the project here, right? So you don't have to go to the Discord and searching for it all the time, right? So we have our main repository project right here, and what you're supposed to do, you're just supposed to press on the fork. And then you're going to need to give a proper name. Let's say GLab's fork. Create a new fork, and we're done. Now, while I'm going to do something, I'm going to address one problem we used to have, is that before, when I was trying to demonstrate it during our meeting, I couldn't create a fork. And turns out the reason for this was because my another alt account was considered suspicious by the GitHub. So that's apparently funny. But yeah, so now what you have done, what you need to do is to go to your folders. Let's say I want to save my project inside of the desktop. So I will go to the desktop and say I want to save my project under the test folder that I just made. If you don't have a folder, you can always create a new folder. Okay, So here we know where we are going to save our project. So now the only thing is left is to go to your browser, select the URL here, and do Ctrl+C to copy it. Now make sure that you are copying the URL to the fork, okay, to your fork. Now, in your File Explorer, you can either press right-click and choose to open a terminal here, or you can just open a terminal. Now, depending on how you installed your Git, you may you either need to open the Git terminal, or you may need to open a CMD or PowerShell, and there you would have your Git. It depends on how you installed it. I suppose that most of you just went with next, so you would have a separate terminal called Git terminal or something like that. Okay. So you would open your Git terminal, and right. So inside of the Git terminal, you would need to navigate to where you want to save your project. So in your File Explorer, you can copy the path like this. So just press on the top of where your path is. For you, it's going to be just test. And when you would double click on it, it would actually show you the whole path. For me, it's always showing the whole path, but it's not going to be that different. Then you copy it. Then here you would CD and Ctrl+V, input your path. Then you press Enter, and you would be inside of the folder where your project is. Okay. So now you have to do git clone command. Go to your browser. I accidentally overrode the thing I copied. So go to your browser, select the URL of your fork, which is important. Do Ctrl+V, press the URL, press Enter. And here you would see that a new folder was created. Here you would see all this different information about your project being created and installed, and etc. etc. And if you would go to our browser, you may our File Explorer, you may actually see the project with all the appropriate files, with demo folder, and etc. 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 So that was the part 1, where we deleted the fork that already existed. We made a new fork. We found the fork on our profile. So to tell if something a fork, you can always see this message of forked from and a link to the original project. Okay, so we know how to delete a fork, how to create a fork, how to find a fork, and when you have a fork, when you would go to it, you can copy its URL, run the git clone command on the appropriate path where you want to save it, and you would have your project on your local machine. Okay, that was the part 1.